So in sketching for your logo, you might look at it and realize that there are three major strategies we went over that can help you kind of tighten it up, make it more effective, more versatile, and communicate more clearly. And those are having it be central and symmetrical, where the eye is drawn towards the middle and kind of held there. Having it be more dynamic, where the eye runs across it. So no horizontals and verticals, kind of all curves and diagonals, and asymmetrical. Or having it play in a clever way with positive and negative space. So this one you could see as dynamic, but then it engages you a little bit longer because you have the edges of the eagle made up by the horse and the wolf. And sometimes you can layer lots of content in with a simple shape when you're playing with positive and negative. So the sketch that I'm going to pursue is this one for our survivalist guide. And it's always good to know what end product you're looking for. So we want just a black shape logo that's just could be cut out of black paper very cleanly. And this will be the theme that I'm suggesting for this semester is for the NLC Survivalist Handbook that's being put together for a class here by Dr. Wesley Adams. And I think of it, I know it won't be this way, but I think of it as like this small 5x7 portable handbook that would be bound in leather. And this is embossed on the front, right? So that's one of the ways a logo can be really versatile. Maybe it's not even black on white. Maybe it's just an embossed shape. So that's why we need to keep it really simple in our first version. And then we'll be doing a color version after that. So here's my sketch. I want you to all get to the sketch phase. So how do we do that? You just go to FaceTime. We're going to practice our screen grab again. You make FaceTime as large as you can on your screen by using the green plus sign in the corner. Hopefully you have better lighting than I have. And I'm going to hold up our course outline, which just tells us everything we're doing, right? And the reason I'm doing this is because it reminds you that FaceTime does a mirror image. And we hold down Command-Shift-4 for a targeted screen grab. Then I'm going to click a rectangle around today's class, which is the 16th. Then when I let go, it will take an immediate screenshot as a PNG. Then you can close FaceTime. The problem is, especially with where I am, let's look at the quality of that image, right? And this has nothing to do with the quality of your sketch. This is showing the problem with raster images. First of all, it's backwards. So what we're going to do is say, Tools, flip horizontal within preview. We just double click on the screen grab and it'll open up in preview. So that will flip it to be the right orientation. But then we need to go to Tools, Adjust Color. And the problem with raster images is every pixel is a slightly different color. You see all the different grays. There's pinks in there, there's blues in there, there's lots of yellows and oranges. And it's not cleanly black on white. So if I do auto levels, that helps a little bit, right? It brightens up the whitest white, but there's still a lot of gray. It darkens the darkest dark to be black, but if we zoom in on that, it's very easy to see with screen resolution. It's still pretty messy. It's not what you would want as a logo. We can take the saturation out completely, and so now it's only gray. But it's still, and we can sharpen it all the way, and that increases the contrast. So you can see all those pixels, but it still isn't exactly what we need. Right? So go ahead and save that. Get your sketch to be as cleaned up as you can within preview using Adjust Color. And then the thing about preview is you just close it and it will automatically save it. So you're going to see it brightens up there. And now that's my sketch. So that's one way you can get the sketch. What's another way you can get a file into a computer as a raster file? You can scan it. So if you have a scanner, and we have a scanner at the back of the room that we can use, you can set a higher resolution. Right now, when you do a screen grab, it can only ever be screen resolution, right? Which is not very high. But these are just sketches. So this is an actual scan of my sketchbook, but when we zoom in, it has all those same problems, right? It has all the gray of the paper. Let's see if I do auto levels. It cleans it up a little bit. If I push the whites just like we would levels in Photoshop, it can go to a pure white. That helps a little bit. I can push the midtones darker. That can help. I can take the saturation down all the way. I can push the sharpness. But this wouldn't work as a logo, right? It's got way too many pieces of flying debris. So we're going to bring this into Photoshop and clean it up. So clean it up as much as you can in preview, just quickly. And then we're going to open that file up with Photoshop. First thing I can do, I can change my default colors to being black on top, pure black, 100% white in the background. You do that by clicking on this little default icon above your color swatches underneath your toolbar. Then I can simply flatten the image if it's not flattened. So it's locked and I have a background layer. The reason you want that is background layers don't allow transparency. And so when I circle something and hit delete, it's going to fill it with something, and I want it to fill it with 100% white, right? So this is not a transparent file. So how else can I clean this up in Photoshop? Well, I can use my lasso, and I can get rid of all those little loose sketch marks, at least somewhat. Fill them with white. Maybe I want to build a sketch using the shape tools in Photoshop, like we did for our second exercise. You're certainly able to do that. What if you want to be more hands-on about it? Well, I'll show you how you can do that. So what if I got tired of using just the lasso and deleting? I can make a duplicate, right? This is where our compositing skills come in. Command J. I can make a blank layer underneath that I just fill with white. And then I can just use my eraser more directly and my tablet. And this time I'm going to use a 100% opaque eraser, but I'm going to use a hardness of 100% and a size that's pretty small. So I can go in there and clean up. Need to be on the right layer. This is why we have a white layer underneath, so that when we erase from it, we just see the pure white. And even if I made just beautifully smooth, high resolution decisions on my scan, which is higher than the screen resolution, it's still not a good logo file, because even those beautiful curves are made up of lots of square pixels, right? And just aren't as clean as they can be. So we'll learn why we're doing this as a vector project. And there's so much of it I don't even think I want to deal with inside. But some people like to really refine their sketches, and some people are comfortable working with something looser. So I leave that up to you. Whoops. But I do want you to clean it up a little bit, even though it's just a screen grab, before we bring it into Illustrator. Now, what's the ultimate way I could clean this up? Well, what if instead of scanning my pencil sketch, what if I took a piece of tracing paper? We're going to be doing this for our next project as an option. But what if I took a piece of tracing paper and inked the exact shapes I want, with a puddle of black ink, and then I scanned that? That would give me something quite a bit cleaner than these smears of graphite powder, right? Or what if I cut it out of black paper and then scanned that? That would give me something cleaner. But we need a digital art way of getting it to be nice and clean. And so that's why we're going to use a new program. Because even though Photoshop has shape tools, it doesn't have any way of saving a file that is a vector. You can use vectors within Photoshop, but you can't ever save them. So I'm going to show you what that is. There are a few other techniques we can use that I don't really need for this one, but I'm going to help you know about in case they can help yours. What if you drew really thin lines and you wanted to see how it would work if it was thicker? So now we're going to use some of our compositing skills. Right now, these are the layers I have. I have my sketch underneath. I have a blank white layer. And then I have my fully opaque layer that has some things missing from the erasing I did. How can we get rid of all the white in this layer? Well, we can use the magic wand. Make sure that contiguous is unchecked. I'm going to put the tolerance up to the default 32, and I'm going to click on the white, and it will select all the whites everywhere, and then I'll hit delete. All right, so all that's left is what is not white, which is a lot of middle gray. I could go further, and I could try to select all the grays and then delete those. All right, but that's going to start to look pretty weird from a pencil sketch. So instead, how can I bulk this up a little bit? Well, I can take this transparent layer that was made with graphite and I can duplicate it, right? And on that duplicate, I can go to Filter and Blur and Gaussian Blur. It's the only filter we use. And let's zoom in on a line here. So I just want to, this is how it is without any distortion. I want to blur its radius a little bit so it becomes a more even line. So, and the lower resolution your image, the less you'll have to do it. So look at the difference between this, without any blurring, and this. This and this. And now that I've blurred it, if I have feathered edges everywhere, if I duplicate it again, it will darken a little bit. So if I duplicate it a lot, it will darken a little bit each time. It can be very subtle. But you can see that. See how it's kind of filling out, and I'm thickening my lines with each duplicate as long as I blurred it to begin with. Then if I think, okay, I've thickened them nicely, now I'm going to merge all those layers together, but not the one that I didn't blur. By selecting them all and then doing Layer Merge Layers, or Command E. And now I can have fun with layer styles. And what if I just filled them all with black using Color Overlay? That's the closest yet to looking like a logo, right? Because there's only black pixels now. They're just not very clean. And it will also show me any debris in my sketch that maybe I didn't see before. So I go back to my 100% eraser, and I could erase out these little dots. So to me, that's like having, doing what's called a marker comp on your pencil sketch. It's kind of like digital inking, but it's really messy. Not very graceful, and it picks up every little detail. So then you could edit it a little bit further from there. Now you get to decide whether you want to work from it in this state, and I'll bring both in to show you, or whether you prefer your sketch state. Right? but ultimately your logo is going to be a solid black cutout.